good.
One time I did an interview, 1 hour. I won't name who I did it with. 1 hour interview. At the end of the interview, went to the other side of the camera. Oh, shit, didn't record. Can we do it again?
And did you?
I did. I did it in 12 minutes.
Okay, well,
Let's turn this video into that
That's
one.
what this is going to be, too. All right, end of the year, basically just a recap of the season and anything you've learned that you haven't already mentioned throughout the year. And
Yeah. This year, I was super motivated coming into this year for sure. Well, first I had a big downturn there after Kona. If you recall, I retired from the Ironman. Not the brand Ironman, the distance Ironman. And so I was like, I'm going all in on middle distance this year. And yeah, I've been doing it a long time. I've got a lot of knowledge now. I've got a lot of experience now. But I would say the theme of this season has been and will be acknowledging reality. I think I've failed. I think part of my failure to acknowledge reality is a little bit of like naivety and then a little bit of like not wanting to acknowledge reality. So I train with a lot of young guys, Trevor's, 24, Ben's 23, Sam's like 27 or 28. I train with a lot of young guys, and, when I was younger, I was like the guy who could train crazy hard and didn't need to recover, and I'll just break you, type stuff. And that's cool, it's nice to be young, that's for sure. As the time has gone on, definitely I'm watching, my recovery capacity and my capacity to do, I won't say, stupid things. I'd say stupid. You don't need to do a lot of these things that we do when we're younger. My capacity to do that stuff has definitely gotten less. The stupid stuff, anyhow. I have to be a lot smarter now. So I think that's going to be the overarching theme of this video, is my acknowledgement that I am no longer 24 years old. So the season started quite well. Training was going well. I enrolled in the Super League indoor triathlon. It was probably the highlight of the season, quite honestly. Made it to the final. That was beyond my expectations. Actually entered the lead of the final heat. Not the lead of the race, but the lead of the final heat on the final day for like a brief second. And it was a really cool experience. And that race was a lot of fun, man. Like, I really enjoyed that. I would do that again. I don't think it suits me in any way, but other than it being on Zwift. But amazing experience. They do a great job. Super League does amazing work. Came home, got right back onto the grind, was feeling actually extremely confident. So confident that I decided to do Challenge Miami, or Clash Miami on like Monday of a Friday race, and decided I would not taper whatsoever and just roll in one day before the race, no taper, and I felt confident that I could win. And, that's a little bit arrogant. That's a little bit naive. And anyhow, I got, I guess, what I deserved in that on lap, I think, 16 of 18 on the bike. And I was in pretty good position. I was riding okay. I crashed and hurt my knee quite badly. And I've never DNF'd a triathlon. And I didn't intend to. But unfortunately, it was so painful to push against the pedals with my right leg that I figured I would do long-term damage if I continued. And that's my golden rule of the DNF, is if you're going to do long-term damage, then you probably should not finish. And so that is my first DNF. So we went from the season high in Montreal to probably the season low in Miami. And that was Talbot and I, solo mission on that one. And Talbot and I do not do good when we are together, and we ate fast food for every single meal. It's all Talbot's fault. He forces me too, by the way. Like, I tell him, we got to go eat fresh fruit and vegetables. And he's like, no, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. We have to do it. And so that's what we ate for every meal. Had a horrible travel home. Got really sick. We made videos about that. Was sick for like a month. Of course, like a smart person, didn't listen to my body whatsoever, trained through every second of it, actually with pride that I'm training through it, because I've never not trained through an illness. So probably prolonged that longer than it needed to go. Had to pull out of Oceanside, which was disappointing. And then approximately mid-April started to come around. And then, panic trained into St. George because it's like, oh, damn, I'm like not very fit. And, took him basically a month off of good high intensity training. So rolled into St. George, and unfortunately, I do this taper set the day before the race, just simple set, something like 425s, descend 1 to 4, 450s, descend 1 to 4, something like that. And I descended down to like 32 seconds in yards for a 50, and I was like sprinting, and so I knew that this is not going to go well. Of course, you don't let that into your mind, but deep down inside, I knew this was not going to go well. And, the entire day, that race never felt strong, felt weak. And in terms of absolute numbers, other than my first St. George, it was my worst St. George. So not off to a good start. Not in great shape, not feeling good, not recovering. So what does one do? One enters in a race the next weekend, of course, across the country. We made videos about, it's all nutrition related. Of course, nutrition is extremely important for a clean athlete. Nutrition and sleep is the only things you have to recover. And so, it's not just the nutrition, though. There's many things that lead to not feeling good or absorbing training or not absorbing training. And nutrition, of course, is one of them, but there are many things. And so went to Gulf Coast 70.3 the next weekend, ate really good. I guess performed a little bit better the next weekend. Ended up finishing second in that one, fourth in St. George the week before. Came home, just continuing to do things as usual, not really allowing the body time to recover properly, not really doing a long period of training with which to actually improve the system, kind of just in, middling territory. And now starting to sweat a little because it's like, I haven't had a W in like coming up on a year. So I went back to my trusty Montremblant 70.3, which I have fond memories of just about every single time. And of course, morning of the race gets canceled due to wildfires, which who would have thunk it? But it was certainly the right decision because it was literally ash on everything. Came home, grinded some more. Didn't really do a big concentrated block or anything. Just a couple weeks. Then went to Oregon 70.3. That one went pretty good. I mean, the swim is like basically no swim because the current is so strong. So, you feel super fresh coming out of the water, getting onto the bike. Had a pretty good bike. Season best bike, 360 watts, and then ran okay off of it, a 111. And so got the W finally. And 2 weeks later, was scheduled to go up against the best guys in the world. Jan Frodeno, probably the last time I was ever going to get to race him. Christian Blumenfeld, the list goes on, many of the top guys. And, what's the logical thing? You just had a pretty good race. What's the logical thing to do? And 2 weeks from now, you're going to go toe-to-toe with the best guys in the world. It is to come home, not recover whatsoever, and train insanely hard for 10 days and then give yourself 3 days of recovery after traveling across the country to go up against those guys. So what do you expect is going to happen when you do that? Especially at 35 years old. If it was 24, maybe when I was 24. But at 35, what do you think is going to happen? Well, you're going to be fighting for middling positions because you're in middling form. You're giving middling type intensity at all times. And so that's what happened. Came off the bike with a group of guys whom the top finisher finished 7th, and I finished last of the group of guys in 11th. So that was disappointing. I made a video about that. Wanted to pull the plug on the season. Thought that it was a bit of a cop-out if I didn't go to 70.3 Worlds, because I do want to win 70.3 Worlds. And so I was like, if you don't go to 70.3 Worlds, how can you truly say you want to win it? Even though I knew I wasn't in good form. Writing was on the wall. Once again, I think I got what I deserved. Went there, was having an okay race, 2 minutes down out of the water, which was certainly an improvement on Milwaukee. Biked up about as far as we were going to get to as close as we were going to get to the front. And then, of course, got a disqualification. And so that was the theme of the season. This one's not going too good. So, dealt with that. That was actually our most viewed video. Thanks for viewing. Not great circumstances. And so, wanted to pull the plug in Milwaukee, extended it one more race, had a bad experience there. What's the logical thing to do? Travel across the country, do a training camp back home, and do 2 more races. And so that's what I did. First time back in Windsor in a while. Don't have my training stuff going on there. Took a while to get back into the groove. Eventually got into a bit of a groove. Put in about, once got there, I would say about maybe 10 days training. And then tapered into Michigan 70.3. Race went okay. Had a pretty good swim for me. I think I was maybe even in the 24s for the swim, which is okay. Not great power. Did have a pretty good run. Tasted it a little bit. Was trying to run Jackson down. Tasted it a little, and then closed the final 5K in a season best 16:20, which that was a positive. Okay, so nice. Pretty good performance. Second, So what's the logical thing to do here? Not recover whatsoever and do another race the next weekend. And so that's what I did. Went to Augusta, and you know how I felt? Well, exactly as one would think you would feel. Didn't really recover to give the body adequate time to recover. Pretty flat, pretty medium, pretty mediocre. And so that was how that race unfolded. And then that's when I finally woke up. And I'm like, Guy, what are you doing? What are you doing? When I've had good performances. I've had good 70.3s. I've had good Ironmans. I've had good performances in my career. And, oh man, this stuff it's not enjoyable. These middling, 330 watts on the bike, Guy. Like, you did that in literally my first 70.3, 2013. I held 300, that's on 26 minutes, held 330 watts on the bike and ran a 110. You're not even doing what you did 10 years ago now. It's like, what are you doing here? So, is it because you're old and you're washed up and the career is over? It may look like that looking in. That's not what it means, though, in my opinion. What it means is it's not the same as it was. You are not the same. No one is the same, but you're always changing. But you're not 24 anymore. First off, you've logged a decade of aerobic training. I've logged up, tons of Ironmans, tons of 70.3s, thousands of hours of training. You don't have to do First off, I did stupid things for many parts of my career, just stupid training, stuff just not well informed by science and by physiological reality. But then to think that, because you did good when you did the stupid things, the answer here, because it's not going the way you want, is to go back and do the stupid things you were doing when you were 24. Literally, I talked to Trevor and Sam about this in a run workout in the middle of the summer, and I was like, I ran super well. I did this 3-month block, I remember, in 2014 when I ran quite well. And I averaged like 112 kilometers a week for 12 straight weeks. Yeah, inside of like 12 or 13 hours of biking and 25 kilometers of swimming for 12 straight weeks, something like that. And I'm telling these guys like, well, it worked then, so I guess I'll do it now. And so then I'm back up running 120K weeks, back to back to back, running like shit because I'm tired. Trying to go back and do something that I did when I did okay, but I'm 35 now. And it's like, what are you doing, guy? That's not coaching. You're coaching yourself, but like, you're not actually coaching yourself. Like, that's not a good coaching. It's horrible coaching, I would say. Like, you're a different person now. You're an entirely different, what you needed to do then. First off, I think that was dumb then too. But just because you had success, this is a thing that we constantly, I think, do problematically, which is because you do good, you think that the things you did when you did good were the reasons why you did good. But the reality is, like, it was only probably 20% of what you were doing when you did something good that caused you to do it good. The rest of it was probably fluff. And certainly some of the crap I did when I had good performances was fluff. And so anyway, you slice it. I'm 35 now. Okay. I can't do the things I did when I was 24. All right. I don't need to do the things I was doing when I was 24 because some of the things I was doing was stupid and it's not informed by science at all. Does that mean I'm washed up and I can't perform and have a peak performance anymore? Well, here's a guy who said very recently had a peak performance. His name's Jan Frodeno. He's 42. He had a peak performance. Christian knew that this was going to be his last shot to take the W over Jan, and he didn't. He's 42. So I was 35. I'm 35. I'm going to be 36 next season. If you take anything from viewing the best guys, and if you take anything from this season, it is you can still have peak performance. With certainty, you can still have peak performance. I promise. I know it in the depth of my being. In fact, I would say I'm mentally and physically stronger than I've ever been. Now, way stronger than 10 years ago, mentally. I've got so much more behind me now, you know? But you're not going to be able to do it by just replicating the stupidity that you did 10 years ago, even though you did good. Okay, you did do good. Now you're going to have to use coaching. Now you're going to have to use science. Now you're going to have to use, your brain. You know, I don't think you should fear training hard. Training hard is extremely important, and it's a great quality. What you should fear is not recovering. And when you're 35, and I'll be 36 next year, I need more time to recover. I need to do, one thing that changed, this is a big overarching thing I've noticed that changed. Every season, 2014, 13, 14, 15, 16, and this is when it began to change, right around 17, I would either finish at Ironman Arizona or Ironman Florida, and then I would take an off season. And then I would spend months building my system up. And then when I started to actually have success and reaping the rewards, then I started to get invited to go do these races, like all over the place. And so I started to go do these races and not take an off season and not build my system up. And so I believe I was able to ride that for a while, but then I just kept doing it. And if I look back and I reflect, I mean, I haven't spent time building my system up now in like 6 or 7 years. Like 3-4 weeks of training and then go to a race, that's not building your system up. Building your system up takes months. Now at this stage, if I want to build myself to something greater, it takes months and months and months of up, down, mesocycles, up and down, recover, absorb, up and down. Like that's what it takes now. And then when you do go and you have first off, for me now, and this is, I believe, what Jan did for pretty well the entirety that I got to race him in his career. And keep in mind, when I got to race him and observe him in his career, he was probably 34 at the beginning and then 42 at the end. You know what I mean? Like he's about where I am now. That's where he was the entire time where I was making observations. And he would do 4 or 5 races a year, and they were freaking peak. And if it didn't pan out the race, wasn't like, oh, let me enter in a race next weekend to feel better about myself. It was like, no, let me go back. What happened wrong? Let me go back to the drawing board and go back, and I need months of training to build myself up and correct the things that I did wrong. And so that's the theme. That's what I learned from 2023. In summary, is that I can still have peak performance. I didn't have a single one in 2023, but I know I can still have peak performance. Me having peak performance now looks a lot different than me having a good performance in 2014, 15, 16, 17. It's going to take different approach, but it can still happen, and it starts with listening to my body and using my brain and informing my training with science. And so that's what we will make all the videos about in 2024. So thanks for tuning in. I wish you a happy new year. I know this isn't maybe the most motivating video. It should be motivating because I am crazy motivated. I mean, I am more motivated than I've ever been right now because it's do or die, back against the wall. I'm the coach. I'm in charge. You're going to see this season my coaching on display. And what do I want to do when this is all said and done? I want to be a professional coach of professional athletes trying to win the world title. And so this is me proving that I understand what I am doing and so Jerry Rodriguez, who I'm working with in the swim, said to me, you should coach Trevor Foley as like an exercise. And so I asked Erin about that, and she's like, you don't have time to coach. You don't have time right now to coach. Like, I want you to be present with family. You're already like very into triathlon. When you're not, you can't be also then coaching. I said, okay, fair enough. That's good. But then I started to think, well, why don't you coach yourself? Like actually, as if you were coaching Trevor, why don't you coach yourself like you were coaching Trevor? And you know what? That is what I should do. I should the coaching hat comes on, okay? What are you doing, guy? This is stupidity. You're not recovering. You do an Ironman. You do Ironman St. George. Phenomenal performance, man. Phenomenal. You're back there. You finished second at the world champs. Christian, the Olympic champs, the only guy in front of you. What do? What's the logical thing to do? Start doing intervals on Wednesday of the week. 4 days later, let's start doing intervals again. What are you doing? That's not coaching, okay? That's not coaching. That's stupidity, okay? And so now my coaching is on display in 2024. And so I'm excited, I'm motivated to show you what I can do, and I still believe I can have peak performance, and I intend to show it.